welcome back to the Pretty Little Tribe podcast. Today we have Lauren Lobley here, who is writer, mama, chef, and host of the Mom Feed podcast.
Sure. Well, let me preface this by saying I am not an expert in seed cycling. My doctor is the one who recommended that I do it, and I'll get into why in a minute. So I'm well versed in seed cycling, but I'm not an expert in it. So I'm going to share my experience and what I know from my research and my personal experience. Well, let's start with what it is. So it's an ancient practice.
Okay.
So seed cycling is a way to use seeds that during a certain part of the month will promote the production of estrogen, and during another part of the month will promote the production of progesterone. And as we know, you need estrogen to get pregnant, but you need progesterone to stay pregnant.
And just to clarify, seeds meaning like pumpkins, like real seeds that you ingest,
Yes.
just for anybody who's listening. Like
the estrogen producing seeds are chia, pumpkin, and flax. So you're probably already using these. And the progesterone ones are sunflower seeds and sesame seeds. So for anybody listening who's like, I'm allergic to some of those, it's fine. Like if you're allergic to flax, then don't do the flax, just do the pumpkin and the chia. If you're allergic to all of, like, just use one. And if you're not, well, then seed cycling is not for you, because I don't want you to do this if you're allergic to that.
Yeah.
Some women have no trouble getting pregnant, but they have trouble staying pregnant. And that is a strong indication that you're estrogen dominant and that you're not producing enough progesterone. So what you do with seed cycling is you either go according to the lunar cycle or to your current cycle. So the lunar cycle, in a perfect world, according to seed cycling, you want to be ovulating on the full moon, so that that's when you're apparently most fertile. And then you want to bleed on the new moon. And so from the new moon to the full moon is when you want to be ingesting estrogen dominant seeds. So pumpkin, chia, flax, a tablespoon of each one per day, ground up, not cooked. So throw them in a smoothie, throw them on a salad, use them to crust a chicken or fish or whatever. And then from the full moon, where you'd ideally want to be getting pregnant, to the new moon, so you want higher progesterone, that's when you do a tablespoon of sesame seeds and a tablespoon of sunflower seeds every day in a smoothie. So I thought, okay, I mean, what do I have to lose? Sure, I'll try it. So I tried it, and I've never, ever had a regular period in my life, ever. And at that point I was like 35, I want to say. Within 10 days of seed cycling, I was supposed to get my period, and I didn't get it. That was very normal. 8 days later, I got my period, and I looked at the calendar, and it was the first day of the new moon. I was like, well, that's weird. And then, so I just kept doing it, and I had ovulation sticks because we've been trying to get pregnant for so long. I did the kit. My first day of ovulation was the full moon. Thought, well, that's got to be just a coincidence.
Yeah.
Next month, same thing. It literally started the bleed on the new moon and ovulated on the full moon. Third month, same thing. So I thought, okay, well, there is something to this. My night sweats went away. I started sleeping through the night again. It was absolutely like, I didn't believe it. So by the 4th month, I was pregnant. And so I don't know, right, like if it was going to keep working. I assumed that it was, but I was pregnant, so I couldn't tell you if it was. So that was absolutely mind-blowing for me. And then that's when I actually started doing more research into it, because before I had just taken my doctor's word for it. And then I started seeing a lot of anecdotal evidence of women using this to regulate periods, to help with fertility, to help just regulate hormones in general, for night sweats. There was a little bit on endometriosis, though that one has evaded a lot of people. So,
And so now being postpartum,
Mhm.
a couple of years, right? How old's your youngest?
My youngest is 21 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are your cycles regular now after? Do you still do any seed cycling to maintain your cycles and hormones and stuff?
I wasn't doing it, but then I was getting really bad night sweats, like for 8 days leading up to my period, and like throughout the whole period, and then for like a day after. So like a good half of the month, I was having night sweats and I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't sleeping well because my son still doesn't sleep through the night. So that didn't change, but I did start seed cycling again, and the night sweats went away. It took
Okay.
2
I'm
months.
definitely trying it
Yeah.
because I'm in the night sweat period of like during my cycle, and I never had them before. So I think part of that's like I'm getting into menopause, which is insane to say, considering you feel like I just had a baby, but then on the other side, it's like I am 45, so it's clearly coming.
Right.
But you know, that's a signal of hormone imbalance, right? And so I definitely want to try something natural before I go down the road of taking any sort of, you know, uh, whatever it may be. There's so much out there right now for hormone replacement and stuff, but I would love to start trying this, as well as, yes, my periods are regular, but you know, compared to what you're saying, I'm ovulating on the new moon versus the other way around. So
Yeah.
I'm super curious to see, like, if you are on that regular cycle, I wonder if that would shift like over time to be like, you know, eventually you're kind of on track with the moon cycles as well.
Yeah, I mean, so because I'm a chef, before I was doing my podcast, I catered and did private cooking, and I have 2 cookbooks, and my friend who was my doctor, I said, you know, her name is Dr. DeSilvia. She's in West LA if anybody is interested. I said, are you finding that women are actually, you know, doing what you're telling them to do with the seed cycling? And she said, well, yes and no. People just find it really inconvenient to throw the seeds in their smoothies every day. And I said, well, what if I made some kind of cookie or ball or bar or something that you could sell in the office that are seed cycling for people to just pop in their mouth every day? She said, please do that.
Amazing.
So yeah, so I recruited about 30 women to test it out because I wanted to test the efficacy, because it had to be raw and ground up. But I wanted to see, like, oh, if I baked something at a low temperature, would it still have the same effect? I didn't want to just, you know, make any false claims with the cookies and treats that I was making. So I recruited 30 women and I sent them all. This was when I was pregnant with my son. I literally stood in the kitchen packaging baggies, individual baggies of the seeds for their 30-day period, and shipped them out across the US. So for the first month, I wanted a 3-month test period. So for the first month, I just gave them the seeds to see if it started to make a difference. And then I started to give them the actual treats to see if it was still going to have the same effect. And thankfully they did. And what was interesting is I would get people saying, I have to stop I'm getting horrible cramps. I had other people say, I have to stop, my acne is acting up. Other people were like, it's not affecting me. Other people said, oh my gosh, my period is regular again. I'm not getting night sweats. I mean, there was like across the board. So one thing I knew for sure was the seeds were having an effect. So that was
one way or the other, something was happening.
Exactly. So that for me was a good sign. And then I talked to my doctor about it. I said, what's going on? She said, well, oftentimes what happens is when we start to peel back the layers of our health, it, like, by taking the pressure off that hormonal system, it started to reveal where things were out of balance. And that's what was happening. So she was saying, like, for anybody having adverse reactions, that's when you want to start working with a naturopathic or a functional medicine doctor. I mean, a regular MD too, if they're, you know, open to this, peeling back the layers, because that's what happens.